like the video, subscribe, but who cares? Welcome to my review of the June 12th edition of AEW Dynamite. Let's begin. So this show is definitely a big improvement on what we've had the past couple of weeks. AEW has finally upped their storytelling while keeping the match quality high as always. But it doesn't show in the ratings this week because it's the NBA Finals. The Mavericks are losing by 3 games and have 0 wins, and I hate it. Come on, Mavs. Come back from a 3-0 deficit. Be the first team to do so. So yeah, this show begins with Swerve and the Elite. Swerve cuts a story-based promo that builds on his feud with Will Ospreay. The promo is basically saying Will Ospreay is not ready yet, and this is foreshadowing his loss, his inevitable loss, his necessary loss at Forbidden Door. He has to lose. Will has to lose. But yeah, nice promo telling him that he's not ready. This is really the first major salvo in the feud where they actively go against each other. This is punctuated at the end of the show, and then we get some minor segments in the middle, but basically this main storyline starts and ends the show. And then Swerve gets officially inserted into the Elite storyline. The biggest threat in the entire company, the number one storyline of this whole company. We get a setup for Blood and Guts that we're not really told why. Like, why the Elite need to make this match. Like, what do they have to prove? They won Anarchy in the Arena. Maybe it's just arrogance at this point. Because just remember, the Elite, or specifically Matt and Nick Jackson, won last year's match. And I guess this is tradition. It also makes you important. It makes you main event like the most violent match in company history. And it's basically them asserting dominance. But what would have been better here is if Tony Khan actually put up his authority over the show. He's still the owner, but the Young Bucks will run the show if Team AEW loses, and then the Young Bucks put their EVP statuses on the line. If they lose, it's basically over. But for me, there kind of needs to be a third match, or alternatively a pay-per-view where they all put their titles on the line. Jack Perry goes on a singles match, I guess, and that's how they decide the feud ender. But yeah, the Elite show up, they invite Swerve into the faction, but there was no chance of this happening because you've been fucking Swerve over for the past month and a half. This was honestly my biggest problem with this entire segment. What made the Elite think that they would ever get Swerve? It could be a power trip, for them, I think it's a win-win. Either Swerve joins them, the world champion joins their faction, or they beat up the world champion. They gain more notoriety. But yeah, I'm glad that Swerve throws those ugly ass shoes right to the crowd. On Clouds and Hokas are still the best. I like Okada's gimmick for now. He's this cutesy foreigner who says funny lines. But for him to be on the level of an MJF or a Bryan Danielson or heck, a Will Ospreay, he needs to have mastery of the English language. He has to. Or else the crowd, this fucking American crowd, is just gonna what him. So yeah, shit breaks down. They're about to beat up Swerve 4v1. But then the Acclaimed show up, and then I don't understand why people are starting to hate them. It might be because they feuded with the Guns for too long, or it's Max Caster's raps. But I currently don't have a problem with the Acclaimed. They're still a good team. They can still wrestle. The rap thing is getting old, like it was meant to be. But yeah, they're a bunch of creative guys. They can make the most out of this. And they are AEW's best original creation tag team. But yeah, this doesn't last long. Christopher Daniels tells them all to get the hell out of here. And we have a smooth transition for the match to follow, which is the Dustin Rhodes versus Jack Perry match to qualify for the 4-way ladder match. So before this match starts, during Dustin Rhodes' entrance, we have this like weird scene here where Swerve is shaking Dustin's hand. And last year, I think this time last year, he took him out with a cinder block. I would have rather not have this interaction. This is just a bit weird. AEW is good at continuity, but the continuity should have been like much more prevalent in this particular shot right here. They should not be this tight. So yeah, I don't like wrestlers being booked as perennial losers. Examples are Jay Lethal, Dustin Rhodes, Pac to some extent, but at least Pac wins matches. Like, I don't like that wrestlers lose big feuds all the time. Like, they're just there for that. But I don't like it more when these mid-card wrestlers just lose every match for the sake of putting people over. Like, at some point, if you lose all of the time, like all of the time, especially in AEW because you have the ranking system, or like we had the win-loss system, like, it just like doesn't give their like contribution of putting people over any value anymore if they just keep losing. Like, he beat this guy, so what? You beat Dustin Rhodes, so what? Everyone does. But they did have him win one match, so I guess, still not good enough. I think you need to book these shows not as a booker where the wins and losses have to like make sense. How do I rephrase this? Like, they don't have to be like, oh, this person is much higher than this person, so this person therefore cannot beat this higher person. Or like, this guy's potential is higher, so you have to keep him winning, or else you would derail his entire momentum. He would be nothing. You need to book this kind of like real life. I honestly don't care about 50-50 booking. It's something that I didn't understand why people hated back in the day, especially in 2016 WWE. Because guys, you can't have these people who put people over lose all the time because they'll lose their value. Oh yeah, I forgot. Dolph Ziggler. Guys who aren't on the tippy top should not be afraid to like slip and fall, make mistakes, and lose from time to time, as long as it's protected. But yeah, the match itself had a simple structure, storytelling type kind of match where they alter a part of the ring, they take out the second turnbuckle, and then make it play out up to the end. This was the most WWE match of the night. Not much in the way of interferences, but like the in-ring referee shenanigans. I don't like that they made Aubrey just like everyone else. I hoped she was going to be the one who was like unfuckwithable, but it's too far gone now. She's just like every other ref. The only difference is that she doesn't get taken out. We also have an odd spot with Jack reaching for something in his boot. Maybe he was just uncomfortable because like nothing came out of this. Nothing noticeable or anything whatsoever. The finish is Dustin gets driven to the bottom turnbuckle. He gets DDT'd on the concrete that Jack sets up. Countout spot, low blow, running knee for the win. Jack Perry wins. So yeah, the only spot of the match is the finish. So this is TV main event only. It's decent, but nothing mind-blowing. So after this is the Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, and then Mark Briscoe promos. So yeah, so this is a babyface, not really faction, a group promo of this alliance backstage. So Renee Paquette asking questions. We get Kyle O'Reilly up first, who is his usual like comedic facial expressions, body humor sort of promo style. I like how he interacts with Mark Briscoe. I love this guy. Kyle O'Reilly, really good. But is not main character level in this segment. Orange Cassidy like channels in like a lot of his serious stuff. Much more main character energy, but a lot less entertaining. He brings out Willow and then that's pretty much it. But Mark Briscoe, man. Mark Briscoe pumps this team up. He cuts an old school style promo that's basically a lot of gibberish with his redneck accent. Mark Briscoe showed so much charisma that he's almost like one of the guys who I trust with the mic to lead on another person. Kind of like an MJF, a Kenny Omega, a Will Ospreay, or like a Ricky Starks. Really good promo here to set up their match much later on. So after this, we have the Roosh squash, followed by his brawl with MJF. And yeah, another week, another Roosh squash against like another sort of muscular long hair type, just like Roosh, but not really. It's a fast and effective squash, but we need to see more than this from Roosh. Like, the dude needs to win feuds against at least mid-card level talent. Hopefully after MJF. Or who knows, they could team up, they could both join Team AEW. So after that, he cuts a heel foreigner promo, he almost starts beating down Roosman, and then MJF show up and then they have this majestic brawl. MJF comes out with a much better shirt over the one with just like the Wolf of Pro Wrestling in words. And then they brawl throughout the crowd. And I love this because we get like this level of crowd interaction, which is a good way of heating that crowd up. Because man, wrestlers are fighting in your line, in your like seating area. This thing was prolonged. We had like an MJF pose that zooms out. And then a sufficient number of weapons were used backstage. Trash can, plastic container, and then a table. And then they're broken up. Cameos all around. We have Glacier, The Butcher, Colt Cabana, and even Nick Comoroto. This thing was well done. AEW really know how to do their brawls. Because God, remember those Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens brawls where they just like do these stupid looking hockey punches? If that's what they're called, they look so dumb. They're so bad. They just let the other person hit them. Come on, man. Throw them dukes up and have a proper fist fight. But yeah, thankfully it was not just that. They actually brawled around the crowd, like, which looked like pretty good fighting and not just like letting the other guy hit you. But yeah, weapons were used, crowd interaction. I hope this feud lasts more than just next week, but we'll see about that. And I hope Roosh gets elevated by this. I hope he's just not like a Dolph Ziggler. But chances are, he will be. So after this is the 6-man tag team match that was built through an attack on Collision. This was one of the more exciting 6-man tag team matches in AEW since we have like their sheer force of great in-ring skill to carry this through. We have 6 dudes here who can, or like who I trust, to carry their inferior opponents to good matches. They're all really good wrestlers and they're solidly in the upper mid card. Every combination between the competitors, like every pairing who square off in the ring, yield great results in this one. I love the start, end, and finish. It's pretty much standard structure, but the heel-dominated phase was very dynamic. They didn't just do headlocks. We had the heels beat the shit out of Orange Cassidy with a variety of strikes, especially from Takeshita, some grapples, and whatever. It's not half the match with headlocks and rest holds, like these elitist wrestling fans love with Randy Orton. Everyone gets their stuff in, especially Konosuke Takeshita, who was booked head and shoulders above any of these guys. Rarely did he yield control to his opponents. We also had storyline interactions between the people with rivalries in this thing. And the finish is actually pretty surprising where Kyle Fletcher, who usually takes the pins in these things, pins the ROH World Champion, setting up a match, I think, at the next pay-per-view. Yeah, I like that Kyle gets a win, but I think Mark needs to get protected as well since he's the ROH World Champion. So I expect a match. I expect Mark Briscoe to win after. So top 2 spots of the match. Number 2 is the sequence of dives, and the number 1 is the finishing sequence where we had a struggle to the end. Everyone was hitting their finishers. Everyone was going for pins, but eventually Mark Briscoe gets pile-drivered by Kyle Fletcher for the win, and that's number 1 spot of the match. Fun match. It's pay-per-view undercard. Yeah, pay-per-view undercard level. That was really good. Post-match, we had a beatdown of the faces, but I really like what they try to do here, where it seems like Willow Nightingale is the one to go out and save everyone. Teasing intergender fighting. like her by herself against the four heels. But of course, she stopped. Stat stops her and then triumphs basically this time. Really good match and a post match segment. Give me more of this. And a lot less Harley Cameron. So after this is the Rey Fenix sort of showcase. That's what I'm going to call it because it's Renee Paquette basically summing up an interview or like her giving her thoughts, whatever this is. Rey is just like doing his warm-ups as Renee is talking about him. And yeah, this is a bit weird. I think there's a reason why these things aren't being done anymore. Like, we've seen this before in the Ruthless Aggression era or even in the Attitude era. But you just, like, need to cut promos. Like, that's the best way. The best non-wrestling way to get yourself over. Like, doing warm-ups. Anyone can do warm-ups. I can do warm-ups. Show, don't tell. This was okay. I know Fenix doesn't have the best mastery of English, but it can't be that bad that they're just having him do warm-ups and stuff. So now this one is what they should have done with Fenix. Like, even if the person cutting a promo does not have like complete mastery of the language, this is how you do it because you can just understand what Shingo's saying and then you get the vibe of his character. Upbeat, strong, main eventer type who will beat your ass. I love that he's entering the Owen. Like, we need more foreign talent to join in and maybe reach the semifinals or even the finals. If it's Shingo, he can have a great match with anyone in the finals. Dude should make it that far. He's like a former New Japan World Champion and like guy is top guy material, basically. I don't know what he's doing with the Never Openweight Championship, which is like a third tier title. Dude should honestly be trading the world title with Naito. But yeah, I like how they do it here. They show videos of him as well as him cutting a promo. But this has a caveat. Everyone cutting a promo, like through these vignettes, should eventually show up live on the show to either cut a promo or like have a match in order to get their wins and to like introduce them to the crowd before we get to the pay-per-view. So yeah, after this is the CD promo. It's a well cut, but it doesn't sound like a GM. It's more like a player coach backstage, but yeah, I like this. It's a change of pace. CD is never boring on promos, even if it's like this type. Yeah, he's no Adam Pearce who's like vanilla. He's not a Stephanie McMahon who's annoying. Like, he is like, how do I say this? He's like a tier below like William Regal or these, who else was that? Or like a Paul Heyman. He's not in that level yet, but it's going to grow on him. He's going to improve. As of now, it just doesn't quite work with CD as the GM. He's basically GM because of name value and like rumors backstage in what his role is. So yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot someone else who was pretty vanilla back in the day. And that's Teddy Long. I never liked Teddy Long. It's like he was never serious. I like serious GMs who can cut these passionate promos. That's why I thought like Stone Cold was the best GM. Yeah, when they had their match where Stone Cold had to retire, yeah, that like kind of made me sad. That like I had a tear going down my eye, even if I didn't completely follow like the Attitude Era. CD's not on that level, but yeah, he'll like get close to it. I don't know if he'll get there, but let's give him a chance. Bright side is he can cut a promo. So after this is the Samoa Joe and Hook versus the Premier Athletes segment. And this thing that they're doing where Samoa Joe and Hook have these like weird conversations, this like Pulp Fiction thing right before their matches or like major events that they're doing in like the most inappropriate situations. Along with Shibata, who's off camera or like who's holding the camera. This shit is winning me over, but I still think Hook should go on excursion. This doesn't change the fact that he needs more reps. I think preferably outside of AEW. Like, when the breakup happens between these two, you need to have him like gain power levels in New Japan or anywhere else. You know what? It needs to be New Japan. Just so because it's the best company that still has any gravitas around there. Dude needs to have a run with the juniors championship, or you know what, the never openweight title. Maybe about 1 to 2 years. This was basically a pseudo squash, but Hook does get his ass kicked, and I hope he gets his ass kicked a lot more. Adversity. He needs to face more adversity. He needs to lose. He needs to go through the grinder and not be just this dominant small dude. But as of now, I like what they're doing with Joe, that he's being this in-ring sort of father figure for Hook. I mean, Joe is basically Taz inspired with his finisher. Not quite the actual style. I think it's a combination of Taz's suplexes with the New Japan sort of strong style. I love the sidestep spot where it just zooms in on Joe. It story tells Hook absorbing the teachings from Samoa Joe, who I think had this sort of thing with Taz back in TNA, if I'm not mistaken. Finish was the athletes are choked out. Of course, Daivari taps out to the Red Room. Joe and Hook win. This is a TV undercard, but a fun one. So yeah. So after this is the Stephanie Vaquer video package promo. It's akin to Mercedes' last week, but it's over her highlights. She does not have that much command of the English language yet, especially compared to Shingo or Mina Shirakawa later on. But this is serviceable. This will definitely get her whatted in an American audience. So I think the best way to go is to have her beat down Mercedes. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I can't really judge her without her actually having a match at AEW or just showing up to do an actual live promo. But yeah, she should definitely have a match to build her up for Mercedes against any lower AEW talent. So after that is Mercedes Mone versus Zukes. And I don't remember the Mae Young Classic very much, aside from, the top women in the tournament. You had Tessa Blanchard, even though she was eliminated first. Kairi Sane, the eventual winner. Shayna Baszler, Toni Storm. Mercedes Martinez. I don't remember Zukes. Honestly, I remember Princess Suhait more. Honestly, I was worried about this match. This had all the ingredients of being a complete bust. You had a luchador, or in this case, a luchadora, who is female, who is thick, that is not aerodynamic, and who is not very well known to the crowd. That's a recipe for getting whatted or getting the silent treatment from the crowd. Because of course, American fans don't care about the talent, they care more about the name value. I thought all of that, especially the crowd reaction, would take me out of the match, but surprisingly it didn't. This did not require a rewatch because it was a pretty good match. Zukes was indeed thick, wearing revealing clothing. My non-existent children were asking these questions that I had to answer for about an hour. After that, they were also crying because this ain't for kids. Wrestling needs to be for kids. My non-existent children were crying. But yeah, as for the match itself, power wrestler versus the more technical and fast wrestler. Zukes kept up the pace, as is expected from a luchador. Imagine if a luchador is not able to go fast. That defeats the purpose. We had a dynamic, dominant phase, not much rest holds, but a lot of lucha things and power moves. But what I liked the most about this match are the unique counters that we don't usually see from the women's wrestlers. We got Fenix, Osprey, and Ricochet level counters here. The finish was actually pretty cool. We had Mercedes rolling up on top of Zukes and then getting her on the moneymaker. Top 3 spots of the match. Number 3 is this toss by Zukes. She ragdolls Mercedes, which was really cool. Number 2 is the Fireman Carry Tiger Bomb. This has the same vibes of the Swerve Strickland Power Slam from a Fireman Carry position, but instead a Tiger Bomb. This confused a lot of the old heads. Like, we had a lot of those moves where the setup makes you expect something else, but then the finish of the move is like completely different. And the number one spot of the match is actually like pretty rough, but it's like a sort of rolling German that's turned into a bulldog. I like this one. So I'm gonna give this a TV main event, pay-per-view undercard. So judging by the reactions for this match, we need to have Stephanie Vaquer cutting a promo on AEW TV, beating up Mercedes, as well as having a match. So after this is, like, I think someone who was well built, well introduced to the audience. I also think Stardom, I think, is a lot more accessible, or a lot more, at least, well known to the wrestling fans. So I guess people already had an idea who Mina Shirakawa was, but like her overness was, I think, based on like how hot she is, basically. And yes, Mina Shirakawa is hot. She has great command over the English language compared to other foreign talent, and I think she was better integrated to the current storylines compared to Vaquer. But yeah, they basically just played a video that was posted back on social media last week. And yeah, this was really good. This basically exemplifies who Mina Shirakawa is, what she's all about. We had highlights of her. We had Mina being Mina, flaunting her assets, but also sort of explaining the relationship with Mariah May. This was maybe the best video package of all of the Forbidden Door build. Maybe of all Forbidden Door builds, actually. It's kind of sad, but yeah. And so after this, in direct response to the Mina Shirakawa video, we had Toni Storm's promo. This is like my kind of promo right here, because a lot of shit is going on. Renee is asking questions, Toni Storm is answering the questions, as well as Mina Shirakawa is live reacting to all of Toni Storm's answers. You need to watch this like at least twice to get what's fully going on, or like to get the full extent of the storytelling. I don't know if having Mariah joining the Owen Hart tournament is like directly going to lead to a breakup right away. I could see this lasting for like 2 more months. And I don't think Mariah is over enough to challenge or much less beat Toni Storm for the title. So I'm guessing she loses deep in the tournament to somebody who actually has a better chance of beating Toni Storm. I think it's going to be Jamie Hayter. And as for Toni Storm, still, amazing performance. The most well-realized and best performed gimmick of the entire company. She's just great. So after this is the Learning Tree segment. Big Bill and Bandit Keith, especially Bandit Keith though, are the ones responsible for salvaging this entire gimmick. Like, the most over thing about the Learning Tree gimmick is that you should respect Chris Jericho. Not the actual Learning Tree gimmick that Jericho does, because like the gimmick's so bad, and I'm gonna describe it in like one way later, but it's like he's trying to ram this down our throats until it gets over. I've said that it might ironically get over because of Bandit Keith, but yeah, this one is just a failure. He might think it's avant-garde and shit, but it's just shit. It's so corny. Teaching people how to do everything. Who the hell thought of this garbage? Like, Jericho has ran out of ideas. Like, for me, in his AEW run, nothing will be as creative as the JAS. The Inner Circle is good, like it's a like main event sort of gimmick, but creatively the JAS I think actually helped Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia. They didn't get to the heights that I thought they would with them teaming up because of unforeseen stupid circumstances, but like everyone got a chance to shine, especially Daddy Magic's promo ability. Even Jake Hager's hat. The Learning Tree is just Chris Jericho scraping the bottom of the barrel. I don't know if he's channeling Billy Mays or Vince McMahon, but it's just not working. Even if you're doing it ironically. Like, the bright side here, the best thing about this whole segment we have here, is that it might get Private Party over. Like, if Jericho realizes that this gimmick is a loss, that it won't go any further than this crap with a title that doesn't even need to be there. The FCW title should not be there. It should just be an accessory. If he realizes that and puts Private Party over and have Private Party be the ones to save us from this terrible ass gimmick, I think this would have done good in the grand scheme of things in bringing back Private Party. Because as it stands now, this will not get over on its own. And yet, even Private Party's involvement with this was pretty cringe, but most of the cringe came from Jericho. It's him insulting their basics, teaching them how to climb up the turnbuckle. Like, what the fuck was this? Very shallow shit. But Private Party get one over. They managed to beat Chris Jericho up, sabotage this whole tutorial that he's doing, and then come out on top. But obviously, they're totally gonna lose next week, or whenever these two factions decide to fight. And they're probably gonna disappear again. So yeah, that's pretty much where things stand. So after this is the Jon Moxley video package, which is a recap of Dominion, of what happened, him beating Evil, Naito challenging him, and his past encounters with Naito. I think Naito has beaten him already. He's beaten Naito once, I think. It's a 1v1 series. And I think if New Japan, decide to not be crap again, I think they should focus on their own guys. I know Mox loves the title. I think he should eventually put Shota Umino over. They could have had him do that already. But as for now, I think Naito's the way to go, since AEW also need to use Mox to put other people over, like Swerve or something, or an Ospreay or whoever. And having him have the world title of another company is not gonna have him lose at all. So yeah, I think it's high time for Mox to lose the title, have Naito win it. I think Naito's the best New Japan wrestler from that golden age. I watched him at Wrestle Kingdom 12 lose the title to Okada. Lose his chance in beating Okada. And then I also watched him at Wrestle Kingdom 14 when he finally beat Okada for the title at Wrestle Kingdom. And yeah, dude is the most charismatic, most creative, also best wrestler, who puts in 100% to every one of his matches, every one of his programs, even if his gimmick is that he doesn't care. Him destroying that IC title was amazing. So yeah, give Naito one more run and have him put over Ryota Tsuji or something. This is the right choice for New Japan, and based on Tanahashi's 10 steps, this is going to be the one to kick things off. So after that is the Bang Bang Gang promo against House of Black. And Juice Robinson is just so charismatic. It's awesome. He seems to fit in more with the Guns' attitude than Jay White does. Juice is the heart of the Bang Bang Gang. You know what? Controversial opinion. I think Juice is a much better promo compared to Jay White when it comes to an American audience. Bang Bang Gang are on fire heading into this match. And then House of Black are I think, hanging in the balance. Because we had their thing go to dust basically when you had Buddy and Brody essentially get given to Cope. And then Cope's injured, so they're back with Malachi now. So yeah, so that doesn't quite add up. You need to have a segment in between that. Or it could just be a retcon. Maybe no one would care, but we'll see next week. But yeah, I'm glad to see House of Black back. They're great wrestlers. And I think they're beyond the trios titles. Honestly, they should go for the TNT title. I think, you know what? I think much better will be... I know Malachi has a match, but I hope he takes out both performers like Dante and Lee Moriarty. He takes both of them out, and then he joins the match, ends up winning the title at Forbidden Door, but the likelihood of that happening is 10% or less. So yeah, you know what? 5%. Very unlikely. So after that is Daniel Garcia versus Nick Comoroto. So what an odd choice to squash, but I really think Nick is someone AEW has given up on. especially when they shaved off his beard. That, I think, did a disservice to him. Like, I don't remember him being a bad wrestler, but I don't remember him being, like, shown off that much. But yeah, this was a pointless squash. It's misuse of a dude who could be, like, in a Brian Cage at minimum. Like, Brian Cage's current situation. Losing to, like, these stronger opponents, but not being, like, an all-out jobber. So yeah, I think it would benefit Nick Comoroto to actually leave. I think I'm going to change him in my rankings. But yeah, MJF and Ospreay are watching Daniel Garcia, so this is going to connect to their storylines, I guess. With Ospreay, it's obvious. But with MJF, I think they're going to be the fourth and fifth men in Blood and Guts. Garcia and MJF. And as for Ospreay, it's too early to have him drop the title. Swerve's going to beat him, but Danny's not going to win it. Not yet, I think. They could have two successive, like, series. You could have Will go 2-up and then lose the third one. And as for the match with Swerve, he can go, like, they can go just like 1-1. So yeah, after that is the Will Ospreay, like, sort of smooth transition. We had like an interview backstage, basically him saying he has no time. So yeah, that puts off the Garcia feud. As for the Pac promo, it's him self-pitying himself. Him basically entering the Owen, stating his intentions and motivations. He wants to main event Wembley, but we all know that's not going to happen. But he's going to be a great, like, match quality modifier in that tournament. I hope he makes it to the semis, where he loses to Danielson. Or you know what? He could reach the finals and then lose the finals. Danielson can beat Takagi along the way. So after that is the main event, Will Ospreay versus Rey Fenix. And did anyone ever doubt the match quality of this? I mean, there are fucking elitists who just, like, want to go back to the 80s to where shit was boring. But not in Japan, though. The Japanese wrestling at that time was people beating the shit out of each other. I'm talking about the wrestlers singing that, like, We Are the World sort of rip-off shit. Or the occupational gimmicks. Or even the Attitude Era, which had shit wrestling. All of you were young and impressionable, watching wrestling at that time during the Ruthless Aggression Era. Now you know what's under the curtain. The internet is more widespread. So why not have a movie fight? Have a Matrix fucking Kung Fu movie style match like we have here. Skywalkers, real life Jedi fighting each other. Because we know what realistic looking fights look like. We have the UFC. We have Malachi Black, Kyle O'Reilly, Matt Riddle, Katsuyori Shibata, Minoru Suzuki for that. And even Josh Barnett, Ken Shamrock. It doesn't look like the shit that the Attitude Era used to do. Nor the Ruthless Aggression Era. Nor the 80s wrestling, the NWA garbage. So let me tell you some things. It looks like MMA. That's what actually works. So don't give me that shit where you say this doesn't look real because it's not supposed to. It's fantasy. They're doing in real life what we used to see in the movies. What we still see in the movies. We have The Winding Way. We have The Matrix. And we have all of those Jet Li Kung Fu movies. Or even Jackie Chan. It can exist, you elitist shits. But yeah, now for the match itself. Swerve watches. He's in the front row of the crowd, so we already have that storyline addressed. That gets revisited by the end. But yeah, he's there to witness the air show, to do the homework. This match was just designed to be a main event. It was evenly matched all the way, and they tried to end each other right away. Big moves, the haymakers. They slow it down in the middle with dynamic holds that I did not expect Fenix to do. Will Ospreay even invented a new move on the fly, this air raid driver. And so yeah, Fenix sells like a smaller man, getting affected more by Will's strikes. Sadly, there was no like limb work that Swerve usually does. But yeah, these two are just trying to take each other out with the strongest stuff in their arsenal. And then at the end, for the finish, is the top spot of the match. Will Ospreay hits a hidden blade. As Rey Fenix looks up and does his roll, hidden blade, Swerve stomp setup, looks at Swerve, does it, hidden blade again for the win to end this good to great match. There was just something missing. Maybe some more desperation would have been nice, or like some limb work that factors in till the end. So yeah, number 3 and number 2 spots of the match. Number 3 is the Ospreay Hurricane Rana from the top turnbuckle. Like, Fenix does it, Ospreay lands on his feet. Number 2 spot is the Air Raid Siren Driver that Ospreay invents. And then number 1 is the finish, of course. The match is pay-per-view undercard, pay-per-view main event level. It was so good. But it's just missing one thing. I think the Claudio match was much better. I like air shows, but I like there to be like a contrast between the two competitors even more. So yeah, after this is of course the post-match segment, which was incredible. Like, this was it right here. We had Swerve going in. We have the foreshadowing reinforced even further. We had Swerve call Will Ospreay a kid, that what he did was immature and disrespectful. This is like a very dick move by Ospreay, I think. I think this is the thing that's going to bring him down. It has to be. Swerve has to win now. There needs to be character development from here up to when Will wins the title, where he's finally the wrestler Swerve kind of wants him to be. He's like a cocky kid right now. And I think like the cocky kid shouldn't win. He should mature first and then beat Swerve. But yeah, that was already cool. But then we had Will snatch Swerve's title. And then we had Swerve do the death stare. This guy has been through feud after feud. Being a good guy. Not anymore. He destroyed Christian Cage's faction. He gained his teeth back when he cut Luchasaurus's fake hair. But now he goes back to Ospreay, takes his belt. You're lucky we're still friends. If anyone else did this to me, I would put them in the grave. This was so fucking good, and this show did not deserve a lower than 700k rating. Like, honestly, man, this is basically AEW addressing all of the criticism, except for one, and that's the learning tree segment, which is garbage. But yeah, this is like everything the grifters and the fucking WWE soldiers were yapping on about. And yeah, this might be the best Dynamite since Swerve won the title. So yeah, great show. This deserved higher ratings, but what can you do? But I think what's more tragic is that the Mavs are losing. They're gonna get gentlemen swept. So yeah, stay tuned with that. So yeah, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.